Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me to share our performance audit of how we inspect PennDOT's bridges and the most vulnerable bridges throughout the Commonwealth. With me today is my Deputy Director for Audits, Janie Chickychop, and Scott King, who heads up our Performance Audits Bureau, and Leanne Weaver, who served as lead on this audit. Pennsylvania has the third highest number of bridges in the nation, and PennDOT is responsible for the inspection and maintenance of over 25,000 of them. State-owned bridges are on an average more than 50 years old. And during our audit period from July 1st, 2020 through May 10th, 2023, Pennsylvania taxpayers spent nearly $1.2 billion to rehab or to replace them. Our audit had three objectives: determine what processes PennDOT uses for inspecting state-owned bridges, identified as overall condition of poor. Evaluate if those processes complied with state and national laws, and evaluate if PennDOT followed those processes and laws when inspecting bridges in the most severe categories of critical, imminent failure, and failed. I want to make an important point. Just because a bridge is ranked in overall poor condition does not mean that it is about to fail. It means that steps need to be taken to repair or replace the bridge, but it still can be used while that process is going on. For the last year, our audit team reviewed bridge inspections, interviewed PennDOT engineers and its contractors, and reviewed thousands of pages of documents to conduct this audit. These inspections happen in rural, urban, and suburban areas and are a good representation of what is happening statewide. We have some good news to report and some issues of concern which we think can be satisfactorily addressed. First, the good news. PennDOT has tougher inspection requirements for bridges in overall poor condition than the National Bridge Inspection Standards. The federal standards outline the minimum that is required to protect travelers who use those bridges. PennDOT is going above and beyond those standards. Having tougher standards is important for our safety, but as our audit found, PennDOT hasn't always followed its own processes. This has led to some inconsistent and incomplete bridge inspection reports. For instance, to inspect bridges, PennDOT uses its own staff and a network of independent contractors. Each bridge inspection, whether conducted by PennDOT employees or contracted consultants, is required to be performed by a team of at least 2 certified inspectors, depending on the size of the bridge. Each team is supposed to be supervised by a team leader who meets one of the 5 minimum qualifications established by federal guidelines. However, we found instances where bridge inspection team leads employed by PennDOT didn't have the minimum requirements to qualify for that role. And we found instances where PennDOT couldn't produce documentation to show the independent contractors who were actually working as team leads had the right qualifications. Throughout our audit, we found concerning inconsistencies in how bridge inspection reports were written, when they were filed, and the information they included. Most concerning were the instances when PennDOT didn't have its own procedures when reporting when PennDOT didn't follow its own procedures when reporting information about bridges with critical and high priority maintenance issues. There seems to be different standards for what is captured in these reports based on whether you work for PennDOT or are a contractor or which PennDOT district office was involved. There is a path forward to correct these issues, and for the most part, PennDOT agreed with our findings. PennDOT has the guidelines, the checklists, and the documentation it needs to effectively manage the bridge inspection program in Pennsylvania. What they need to do is follow them consistently. We call this implementing process improvements. In its response to our audit, PennDOT told us that the proper notifications regarding critical and high priority maintenance issues happened. They just weren't documented. I'm here to tell you, as an auditor, processes matter. Writing things down matters. After all, why would PennDOT require documentation and have deadlines for reporting if they didn't matter? It is important for our safety and the investment of our tax dollars that all bridge inspection reports are consistent, filed on time, and the qualifications of the teams doing the inspections are readily available. PennDOT is working to reduce the number of bridges in poor condition by repairing or replacing them as time and tax dollars allow. By implementing the process improvements identified by our auditors, PennDOT can provide consistent reporting that ensures these bridges can be maintained, repaired, and replaced without having a major bridge failure. Thank you.
We're talking about tax dollars, and that when bridge inspection process is consistent, that helps save taxpayer money. Can you give some examples of why that is? How does them doing this well, being consistent, translate to save money?
Well, first of all, let's start with the processes. The processes are in place to make sure that there isn't something like a complete bridge failure. And if we look at what happened in Pittsburgh, we look at what happened in Maryland, where there were complete bridge failures, by following these processes, you hope to avoid something like that, because that's catastrophic.
So it's a matter of, well, is PennDOT saying it's a matter of staffing? Do they need more money to help get everyone the qualifications they need, or what's their response?
We're pretty much saying that as far as the processes that were in place, the processes actually that they put in place, they need to be followed. And that's the main part of this audit report. You put the processes in place, which are there for a reason. Follow those processes. And like I just said, in order to avoid something catastrophic that could occur.
Is there a specific incident in Pennsylvania that kind of inspired this specific audit, or just kind of something that been brought up?
No, this is one of our mandatory required audits that we perform.
Have you seen improvement since the last time this audit was done?
I believe this audit has not been done. And I'm going to bring Janet Chickie-Chop, who is our deputy auditor general.
We have noted in the audit that the PennDOT has improved more of the bridges, so the bridges are now better now than they were when we started the audit. So that's very beneficial and hopeful that that will continue. So.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.